the Democratic Republic of Sparta. The controversial land who started with a corporation who controlled everything, economically and in the government. After a year with 7 deaths and passionate court cases, a crisis vote was declared, where a parliamentary system was put in place. This is when the true madness erupted. The power hex was destroyed, potentially killing everyone. But God intervened, saving the world. There were impeachments and the court cases of a lifetime. An apartment was destroyed from the revolution, and it all ended with a controversial executive order that even Supreme Justices would have trouble deciding with. The country had almost 30 deaths. How can a country function through all these destructive actions? This is their story.
The following footage is from the few survivors of the Democratic Republic of Sparta, standing by the ruins and rubble of their destroyed country. I thought some of the strengths in our society was that everyone seemed extremely passionate in what they wanted and had this mindset and drive that you could see. Although our society had strengths, our weaknesses were off the charts. Even though there was an intensity and drive to get what they desired, most of what people desired was bad for some individuals and basically bad for the entire well-being of the country. There was not much cooperation with each other. Everyone seemed to be against one another, and many thoughtless and reckless acts took part in the simulation. Some of my strengths and weaknesses were that I was able to survive, which was good, but one of my weaknesses was I wasn't able to retrieve the energy for the first year due to the expenses and lack of money that most of us had.
Going into Civic Mirror, everyone was very optimistic. We thought that this was going to be our chance to prove the possibilities of a perfect nation, a utopia. However, once hidden agendas were thrown in, we learned why it's so impossible. Each person's utopia is different. Like, a egalitarian's utopia is the opposite of a supremacist, and it's impossible to make their oppositions come together for something that each person is completely perfect with. I think that everyone's outlooks changed a lot, as interpretations of people differ. We saw everyone's good sides and everyone's ugly sides. We also learned how complicated court cases and passing laws were. Everything isn't as simple and straightforward as we once thought. A lot of work and thought goes into each small action. You can't assume that things will work out for themselves with just acceptance and people forgetting and moving on for peace. There are always repercussions, and you must try to expect the controversy. Now, I'm not as trusting of a person as I used to be, and I think this has made me less vulnerable, but also more cautious. This citizen was injured during the rebellions in the Democratic Republic of Sparta, and was not able to return to the site. She does, however, have some things to say.
Many things and events shocked me. I was shocked about how we basically separated into 2 different groups. Our class became extremely corrupt, and how one reckless act, the destruction of the energy hex, could affect our entire society. We were shocked by the dramatic actions people took for their desired outcome, and how so many extreme actions or events took place, and the intense repercussions that followed.
This year, almost everything was frustrating, depressing, and upsetting. There was a corruption in government, but also in people, and it seemed like no one was going to act how you thought they would. People commonly acted very selfishly, doing things that benefited themselves personally, but not necessarily everyone else. We have to work for everyone if we want to succeed in the long run. My personal hidden agenda was a humanitarian. which got status points when there were little to no deaths. At first, I thought this was perfectly reasonable, as others would naturally be helping me since they wanted to stay alive. However, there were almost 30 deaths in the Democratic Republic of Sparta, obliterating my goal. I was so frustrated. But I learned that some people are so passive they don't act on the simplest life-supporting things, and you can't trust that they will. Also, as shown with Megan's apartment being destroyed, there are surprises that can kill people, and you can't stop everything from happening. It was depressing to see how many trusts and friendships were broken. A lot of people were very cruel with their reckless actions of hatred, and I learned about the reality of serial killers, murderers, and other terrible people who just don't care about the lives of others. I learned that there are different levels of seriousness, and to some, everything is just a joke. Friendships were broken these past 2 years, and I saw how politics and business should be kept separate from personal
Another
relationships.
citizen of DRS was Hana. However, she was psychologically damaged from her experiences on the battlegrounds and couldn't bear the return.
If we had another chance to do this again, we would take into consideration all the things we've learned
And apply them to the happenings and events of the New World.